The importance of this is the way that this fits into consultation and engagement. So those techniques, which we have had a flying start, and I've focused more on the way that the context fits together rather than the mechanics of this. Where we're doing this, it fits into this engagement timeline. This is a very simplified process around it. So we've got our engagements, pre-consultation engagement, and we've got consultation around it. So our engagement, the analysis that we're going to be doing now is where we bring forward issues. So that is very much around developing original insight to help us to get to the proposals that we're going to test in our formal consultation. In formal consultation, that's where we shift that emphasis from looking at insight to testing proposals. So that's where it starts to really differ from traditional market research disciplines. Okay. And what all of this is around putting together, providing information for decision makers to make those informed choices. So it's, we discuss the proposals, we consider alternatives, we develop decision-making criteria, and we develop an outcomes report. And how you might do this is this kind of whirligig, I think of example, is that reflects the ways in which we assign our time to this process, either engagement or consultation. This is talking about the consultation. The two things that we never put enough time, in my opinion, are design and analysis. But anyway, in this process, we go through the planning, so we know that we need to work out what the governance cycles are, where it goes, what the key issues are, who it goes to, what the approval cycles are. So we plan that. Design, that doesn't matter. We'll just throw a few questions together and we'll get it right. Okay. So that's where it goes. That's where analysis goes wrong, because we're conflating questions. We're asking questions people don't understand. We're asking questions that are based on technical language. We're writing questions for Guardian readers, the full, anyway, as opposed to tabloid readers. We should be making sure that we take the time to make it understandable for the average reading age of 7. So designing that, making sure we get that right, and ensure that the questions aren't leading, aren't conflated, aren't asking more than one question around that. The easy part is the consultation itself, because you've planned all of that, you're doing it all, you're out in the field. However, for us as analysts, the key thing that we need to be pulling together is periodic data sharing. Having a look at that at a regular interval to ensure that we're not getting lots of skipped questions, we're not getting lots of the raw data. So you would actually try and develop trial themes out of your qualitative data to see if it makes sense, to see if people are interpreting the way it comes through around that. And there are two benefits to that. One, it does tell you where it's going wrong. It also starts to build up your coding frame for the future, for the final analysis, because that data is never going to go away. Okay, that's unless it's gone horribly wrong and you're stopping the consultation and you've got to redo it. That consultation data will always be in place for you, so you're not wasting time in doing trial themes. And when you come to, there's a loop there. You're checking, is the data complete? Have we finished? So in essence, is the consultation closed? But that's not always the key data. So if we have, for instance, concentrated focus groups, we might only be running those for 4 weeks out of 12. If we've got those in the middle, we can take those out and we can do the analysis. And that then saves time for the future, because that data doesn't change unless you're going to rerun focus groups. So check when the data comes complete. So that applies to different phases around that, and you'll know that because you'll have a good consultation and engagement plan in place. And then it comes round to we do the reporting. And what that might look like is that we need to think about how we're going to pull it all in. So in the design, what we're going to design is things like the survey. So let's say we're going to do expert by opinion focus groups. However you define that, somebody who's got real experience. We'll bring in, we talked about VCS focus groups. All of those can be designed right the way through that. We can't design social media monitoring. That's really important to understand what's going on in social media, except to make sure that we've got that. And we can't really design other submissions, because that's entirely down to the way in which people want to respond to that. And then we work through that right the way through. We need to work out what we're going to do and bring it forward in consultation, then an analysis, how you do that, and bring it through. So the survey, ongoing coding of qual data, making quant analysis. We do the quant analysis on the receipt of the final data. So we don't really do that. But you should always still be keeping a close eye on that. And then we get to the analysis and reporting. And the reporting is, there's two types of report that we need to think about. And again, we never plan these in. There's our outputs report and our outcomes report, our decision report. So the output report allows us to provide conscientious decision making, consideration by decision makers, and which leads to decision being made. The outcomes report is good practice. We've spoken to you. We should tell you what we've done. So you said, we did. What the outcomes of it? So an outcomes report. The context of it are what we put into it. The minimum that you put into it is we set the context. What's the issue being consulted on? We set the context in terms of how we consulted, what all the mechanisms were. We set out the response sample, who responded. Okay. And again, there's the danger of over-reporting that. So summary data, if you want to go into the detail, put that in an annex. So it doesn't look like, it doesn't distract attention. Okay. You need to be clear, it's not representative, unless it's a structured sample. So in our output report, we provide the responses without any attached opinion. So we report our quant data and our qual data without making any judgment around that. So that's for decision makers to do. There are different circumstances when there's devolved authority, but this is kind of the best practice route. We provide segmented opinion by protected characteristics, for example, so that we can see what the difference is in there, and ensure all responses are covered, so you don't miss anything. So that's why your audit trail is important. And then the final thing is your outcomes report, which is post-decision, which, and again, sets out the context, issues being consulted on, how did you consult, and who responded. But what it does then is provide a narrative of the consultation responses and what was considered by the decision makers and the response they made. So what our decision was. You need to provide details of the governance arrangements that underpin the decision-making process, so that transparency, and provide detail of the final decision being made. And you should publish that somewhere that anybody can realistically find it. So there's two stages to it. So it just doesn't disappear. The outcomes report is generally written internally. Okay. The output report can be written independently. And that has value because it shows independence of thinking around that. So thank you. Hopefully it's been useful.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.